This is Keith Lipscomb from ESPN, and you're listening to Success is a Choice with Jamy Bechler.
Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Welcome to Success is a Choice podcast. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler, and today we have a guy that does it all. He truly has a passion for helping people get better and finding purpose. Tony Gaskins Jr. is a former college football player who is now an author, motivational speaker, and life coach. He is truly a big player on the social media scene, as he has more than 300,000 followers on Twitter and 1.7 million followers on Facebook. He works with professional athletes and has even appeared on the Oprah Winfrey show. So Tony, welcome to our podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Tony, you've done a lot throughout your life. So could you share with us a snapshot of where you've come from to get where you currently are? You know, kind of what your journey has been like.
Well, I am originally from Arbondale, Florida, and it's the home of Tracy McGrady, Arbondale, Florida. And we had probably 5,000 people. I think now it's at 14,000. And I played basketball and football all through school. Went to college on a full football scholarship. And when I got there, that's when life really hit me. You know, I was raised very conservative. My mother and father in the home, strict. And then being in college, able to do my own thing, wanted to experience the world and just got caught up following the wrong crowds, being impressed by the wrong type of guys. And after 3 years, my coach kicked me off the team. He said it was because of a bad attitude, but really it was because I kept getting injured, which came from just a lack of focus and commitment. And I never had an attitude problem, to be honest, like, yes, sir, no, sir, always did what I was supposed to do. But, you know, in college, you aren't technically allowed to let a player go because of an injury, so they say. And so he had to put it under something else. And it was the best thing that happened to me, because outside of football, I really just wasn't focused. And I came home and wrote my first book at 22 years old and got married at 23, became a father at 23. And that's what really started my journey of, you know, trying to live a purpose-based life and fulfill my purpose by turning my pain and my mistakes into purpose.
You know, this podcast is called Success is a Choice podcast. What does success mean to you, and how do you kind of measure it? Maybe it's an evolution too. Maybe you measured it differently when you were playing football and early on in your life as you do now. So talk a little bit about success.
You know, coming up, I had no real idea of what success really was or what it meant. And when I became an adult and I started to live my life, for me, success really became what type of husband and father could I be? And so I really try to focus on family first. I mean, that's, I have to work, and I have to work hard, and I have to earn a living. And, you know, we only eat what I kill. And so nothing really just falls out of the sky or just comes to me. I have to get out and go and get it and create. But for some reason, no matter how much money, you know, you can earn or what accolades you can achieve in your business life, my success is being a 100% faithful husband to my wife and being a devoted father to our two boys, ages 10 and 3. And from there, everything else to me is just a byproduct of being a successful man in the home. And that's truly just has become my definition of success.
Well, we mentioned in the intro that you had appeared on the Oprah Winfrey show, and most of us would like to be on the Oprah show, just if nothing else, to sit in the audience, and hopefully, you know, we win a new car or she gives us something. But you actually got to be on the show where she talked to you. How did that come about?
That was in 2009, and I had published my book in 2007. And one of the chapters I wrote about, toxic controlling relationships. And so there was an incident with a celebrity couple where they had a domestic violence incident. And I was listening to this free teleseminar, and they were talking about timely pitches, to where if something happens in the media that you've kind of touched on, even if it's just one chapter in your book, you should start pitching yourself to all of the media outlets that you can think of. And so I sent a timely pitch, and I told them that when I was in college in a relationship as a college football player, I was a toxic controlling lover. And so I understood what it was like to be that young man, that young music artist who got into that incident with his girlfriend. Although I had never, had the police called or went to jail or anything that drastic, I still was trying to kind of piggyback off of that incident. And so they wrote me back and said, hey, we would like you to come tell your story. And so I went on and I told, a portion of my story. And I was supposed to be on there 5 minutes, but when the producer came to move me, Oprah, she said, no, leave him here. So my 5 minutes turned into 55 minutes, and it was a live airing. So it never replayed. They never gave us a copy of it. I just had a picture from online, and that was it. They've even deleted the transcript from their site. So for me, it was just like a moment in time. It was something I did to go and expose myself. I call it taking your skeletons out of the closet and putting clothes on them and sending them into the field to work for you. That's what it was.
So how big time did you feel when Oprah told the producer, no, he's going to stay with us? I mean, were you floating a little bit at that point?
To be honest with you, the whole thing was like a outer body experience. Like I was kind of numb because I'm very quiet and shy. So to be on the largest stage in the world, it wasn't me. I just felt like I was, I felt like God was using me and kind of speaking through me to kind of minister to the people who had made mistakes and been a bad person and wanted to change and be a better person.
Okay, you mentioned that you're quiet and shy, but you're also a motivational speaker. How do those mesh? Most people would think of a motivational speaker as being in your face and loud and boisterous and the center of attention.
Right. Well, one thing that's greater than passion or profession is purpose. And so when you have a purpose to serve, your purpose will pull you even when you don't want to go. And so because of the life that I've lived and the wisdom that has been given to me to touch on those life mistakes, I speak from that. And it's reluctant, but I feel like I have to do it or I wouldn't be living. So that's why I'm a speaker, but I would have never asked to be a speaker, or I never dreamt of being a speaker. I failed oral communications class in college because I couldn't give a 2-minute speech to 15 of my peers. I literally got an F in the class. I would drip sweat from my hands. I mean, I just would be drenched, literally sweating bullets, like literally, not metaphorically speaking. Like my face would just be pouring with water. And I'm just a very nervous and quiet and shy person. But when I'm operating in my purpose, I'm given a boldness to deliver.
Now, we all listening to this have social media of some kind, that's here to stay. But you have quite a huge platform on social media, and you're doing a lot of great things on social media, putting out great content. What advice would you have for us on how to build a meaningful platform or to put out significant content?
I would say just operate from your heart, and talk to yourself, minister to yourself. What do you need to hear? What messages do you need, or the people closest to you, what do they need to hear? And when you put that online and you're consistent and you show up every day and you're present, don't automate it. Don't, you go in. And if you can't go into the social media site, then wait till you can go in. But don't automate it. You can't have a presence if you're not present. And you have to come from the heart. Don't do what you read in an article or what someone told you. Post what's on your heart. And that's what has separated my page from many others. And that's what really grew my following, was my messages speak to what people are really dealing with, because it's something that I'm dealing with or have dealt with, or someone close to me is dealing with. So I'm sharing a nugget of wisdom that was placed in my spirit, in that moment.
Well, in the same vein of social media, Damian Lillard, the all-star point guard for the Portland Trailblazers a few years ago, tweeted out something that said, "This man, Tony Gaskins, is too real. Y'all need to get up on him. He just changed my life. #RealRap." Tony, as you speak to different audiences all over the place, from Oprah to couples conferences to professional athletes, I know that some of your specifics of your messages are going to be different. They're going to vary. But for those of us who haven't seen you speak before, what's your style and kind of what's your core message? Why do you resonate with people, whether it's Oprah's audience or professional athletes? What are they taking away? What are you doing that it's resonating with them?
I'm just speaking from the heart. I've never used note cards or the iPad or PowerPoints. I just get up and I tell a story and I make a point. And I heard that nugget on a random YouTube video years ago when I was flying to a speaking engagement, and I typed in YouTube how to give a speech. And this guy said, tell a story, make a point. And that's what I do. I take the topic and then I look at my life and see where my life has taught me a lesson about that topic. And I tell that story and I just tell it from my heart. So my voice may be shaking. I may have tears in my eyes. I may literally start crying and have to take a second and wipe my tears. But I think what it is the real recognizes real. And what comes from the heart reaches the heart. But if you're speaking from your head instead of your heart, then you may be going over everyone else's head. But one thing that is a universal language is a heart language. And so I speak from the heart. I speak in the moment. I'm prepared spiritually and emotionally, but I don't use notes or anything like that. So I feel like they have a different experience because they know it's real.
Well, speaking of, life lessons and speaking from the heart, last year you released a book entitled The CEO of Me, 31 Life Lessons. Give us a little teaser, if you would, of what we can expect from that book when we buy it, and maybe one or two of those life lessons that really stand out to you.
That is it's 31 like little nuggets. So it's really intended, 30 or 31. It's really intended just for you to read almost like an affirmation in the morning. You can expound upon it and make it very profound if you like, but I try to, keep it simple. I tried to keep it simple, and I wrote 4 of them last year. Little books. What's today's date? The 12th. So lesson 12 is be a doer. Work twice as hard as you believe. Don't think too long. Don't talk too much. Analysis paralysis will prevent your success every time. See the vision, make a plan, and get going. Take action and be willing to fail. Doers always produce more than thinkers and worriers. Give your action direction and make it happen. So that's the nugget from day 12 of CEO of Me. And each day it's just like a different nugget like that for your life.
Well, excellent. And you've written a lot of books. One of the books you wrote was The Dream Chaser. If you don't build your dreams, someone will hire you to help build theirs. Now, most of us have a bucket list, or we have some things we'd like to do someday. What would you say to us to help us better see what we can be, but just as important, to help us move toward achieving that goal or that vision or that dream that we have?
For me, I'm very practical, just taking one step at a time. I say, look at what you want to do, look at the big vision, and then just kind of think backwards and think about, okay, how can I take one step towards it? So if you want to have a community center, you first need to name it. And so you name it, and then you go on the state website, and then you incorporate it, and then you start raising money, or you start looking at buildings. So that's what I say. Really look at what your heart wants to do, and then think backwards and think about every step every literal step, logical and practical steps that you can take to get towards it. And that's how I've, built my dream personally. I didn't have a big team. I don't have a team. I utilize virtual assistants or, me and my wife, but everything that I've built, to this point has mostly just been me taking and implementing something that is very simple and it makes sense to me every single day.
I hope that you're enjoying this interview with Tony Gaskins Jr. If so, then we have a great deal for you. Our friends at Audible are offering our listeners a free audiobook download of Tony's book, The Dream Chaser. Just go to audibletrial.com/success is a choice to get this free download as well as a free trial membership. Once again, it's audibletrial.com/success is a choice to get Tony's free book. And now, back to our interview with Tony Gaskins Jr. Well, looking back on your life, you had mentioned the struggles you had with football and getting kicked off the team in football. And you claim to have a PhD from Mistakes University. What are some of the challenges other than the football that you've had to overcome, or maybe a favorite failure that you've had in life that's helped make you who you are today?
Well, when I was in college, I was walking to class or somewhere and I found a little bag of marijuana. It probably was like maybe a $5 bag. And I didn't smoke marijuana, and I've never smoked marijuana even once or smoked anything. And I picked it up and it was just kind of cool looking. And a lot of my cousins were drug dealers. And so I was red shirted at that time. I was a red shirt freshman, I believe, and had nothing better to do. And so I gave it to one of my teammates who I knew he smoked. And he thought that I sold weed. And so he asked me, like, how much for it? And I was like, well, that's my last one, so you could just have it. So then it just kind of made me feel cool. I felt like the movies, like, the drug deal. I felt like my cousins who had all the nice jewelry and the nice cars. I didn't have any of those things. And so I became a little petty, drug dealer selling marijuana to the guys who smoke at the college and, just making a couple $100 here and there. And when I got kicked out of college, that never came to the forefront. My coach didn't know that or anything. It was really, really small. And I became full-time, selling drugs when I got home back to Florida, because that's what my cousins did in my hometown. And that was just like, it was a different experience. And it was, it was scary. It was risky. Could have went to jail for, 5 to 7 years, could have gotten killed. And I made it through. When I met my wife, she demanded that I stop, selling drugs. And so that was like a horrible failure, in my life. But I guess you could call it a favorite failure, because there was lessons there that I was able to pull from that when I made that transition in my life.
Well, you are speaking all over the country, and you have a podcast yourself. You're dropping nuggets all over the place to help inspire and motivate people. You're writing books. What do you do to help fill your tank and to learn and grow and develop so that you can continually give to others?
I listen to people who are not like me. I listen to people who have a different background, a different upbringing. I believe our strengths are in our differences. So when I was changing my life, I stopped listening to rap music because that was my story. I was just like those guys. We were very similar. And I started listening to Zig Ziglar, and who was, my complete opposite, other than we both kind of country, both from the South, and both Christian. So we had some basic things in common. But other than that, it was just a different type of wisdom. So I would listen to Zig Ziglar all day long, like literally 8 to 10 hours a day. And so to this day, when I need to fill my tank, I will go to YouTube and I will listen to Zig, or I'll listen to Jim Rohn and just kind of hear what they're saying. I'll listen to other individuals who I bump into online to kind of more so today learn what not to do, because everybody's really money focused and based on profit over everything. And that's not really my focus. So I listen to people just to kind of get a little giggle and see what looks funny, cheesy, corny, scam artist type, and learn what not to do And that really fills me up. I'm getting knowledge. I'm growing. And then outside of that, just relaxing with my family, my boys, my wife, going to the movies, going to the theme park, things like that just always kind of refuel me.
Are there specific podcasts or books that you read or listen to now?
My number one podcast, it used to be Zig Ziglar's podcast, but I listen to pretty much everything he put out. I've been listening to Dave Ramsey a lot, trying to get finances in order because, I'm what I call broke-minded. And so that I would say that's my biggest struggle in life, because when you start earning money, but you don't really come from money, you have no money knowledge, so just like we see these athletes and we make fun of them and we say, oh, how do you make 100 million and go broke? Well, it's very easy because if you don't understand the value of a dollar and you don't understand how to say no, you know nothing about investing. I talked to a guy yesterday and he just told me about business credit. I'm 33 years old and I own 8 businesses and know nothing about business credit. So it's like you are a product of your environment most often because you have to be taught. And so if the people you come from know nothing about what you're doing or the level that you're at and can't relate, then they can't teach you anything about it. And then other people who see you, if they meet you in person, a lot of times they see a meal ticket or they see somebody they can prey on. So all of my mentors don't even know they're my mentors. I've never met them in person, and I listen to them because they can't see me, they can't touch me, they can't try to take advantage of me, take advantage of my ignorance. But yet I can benefit from the knowledge and wisdom and understanding that they're sharing. So I would say Dave Ramsey is my number one, podcast right now, learning about finances.
Well, he's got some great financial advice. Now, have you and your wife went to the envelope system yet for budgeting your money?
I was about to tweet yesterday, if you speak any other language besides English, please tweet me how you say budget, because I'm trying to see which language my wife understands. Because English when I say budget in English, she does not comprehend that. So, and I talked to my cousin, who he's changed his life too from the street life. And he told me, he said, no, I've never met a woman who's good with money. But then I listened to Dave Ramsey and I'm hearing all of these women who are great with money and they're on the plan. So I kind of try to play it loud so my wife can hear it. But, and we'll sit down and watch it, but that's just not her forte, budgeting. But, so the envelopes, I don't think that'll ever happen. Maybe 2 or 3 debit cards, but I just can't push the envelopes on her. She's just not feeling it.
Well, we went to the envelope system about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was definitely different, but it's helped us save money. It got us out of that mindset of just spending all the time. And we even went ahead and we bought his, I forget what it's called, but his program for little kids. And so our son, our 8-year-old, has Save, Spend, and Give. And he's putting money in each of those little things. And they sent along books. And he loves reading those books every night about different things about money. So if you haven't checked that out, or if any of our listeners haven't checked that out, he's got some great stuff for kids.
I really need that. Because my son, he's 10 and he handed me his Christmas list. And I can tell by his Christmas list, he still doesn't have an understanding of money. And so I need to get that lesson to him.
Our son Jalen he's gotten to understand the saving and spending. He's struggling with the giving still. He will give toys, but he struggles with giving money. So we're still working on that with him, but it's been very helpful. He when he gets his allowance, he knows that he only has so much of that allowance that he can spend. So it's been helpful so far. Not that it's been easy, but it's been helpful.
How much do you give him for allowance?
It's different. It's based on how much different chores. There's dollar amounts associated with each thing. And the main thing is just staying in bed at night. If you can stay in bed at night, you can rack up a whole lot of money, not bother mom and dad while we're sleeping.
Right.
But Dave Ramsey stuff, it comes with chore charts. It comes with some instructions and tips on how to help your kid do better at that stuff. So I definitely recommend that.
That's awesome.
Well, speaking of that, have you ever made a purchase of $100 or less that had like a profound impact on your life?
Stephen R. Covey's book, the 7 Habits of Highly, is it efficient people or highly successful people?
Yeah, effective people.
Effective people.
Yep.
And that was probably some years back, maybe 3 to 5 years back. And I bought that book, and I'm not really much of a reader because reading is fundamental. So I listen better. I bought it to read it, and, it gave me a headache. So I bought the audio and started listening to it. And it just really, it stretched my mind so much and helped me grow in so many ways. And I just really started to learn about communication, about beginning with the end in mind, seeking to understand, then be understood. And just those little nuggets that I walked away with, it stretched my mind, and it gave me a paradigm shift, and it changed the way I saw the world. I say that's probably one of the greatest purchases, to this day.
Now, you talk a lot about relationships and stuff sometimes when you go out and speak or at conferences. Does your wife call you on some of that stuff? Is it harder? Does she hold you accountable for a lot of that stuff when you come back to the house?
In the beginning, in the first, 2 years, or when I first started speaking, I was kind of like a lot of people we've seen, in the media or what have you. I was saying a bunch of stuff, but I wasn't living all of it. And she started to look at me with a side eye. And I was, 23 years old. So, but by the time I turned 25, she had snapped me into shape, and I was all the way on. I was all the way focused. So now, at 33, I've kind of mastered that side of it, relationships. And that was my goal, to really be one of the best husbands in the world. And, she takes advantage of it sometimes because she knows that I'm kind of, I'm not at all a tyrant or a dictator, and I lead with love and I lead with service. And so she made me get it together. In the first 2 years of marriage, I got married when I was 23. So by 25, it was all on. And she's not a speaker. She's not a teacher. She's more so a doer. She just has a strong backbone. She stands her ground. And we just signed a 2-book deal with Simon & Schuster. And the first one will be me writing the book called Make It Work on love and relationships. And our second book will be together. So that's when the world on a very large scale will get to hear her wisdom and insight on love and relationships, and how she helped me go from a grown boy who was one of the worst, guys in the world to now today, what I like to say is hopefully one of the best husbands in the world.
Where can people connect with you or learn more about what you got going on?
Tony Gaskins is my handle on everything online, and TonyGaskins.com. I'm always there. I try to read, my direct messages and, tweets or what have you, and connect with people and follow people back. So anywhere, Tony Gaskins, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I'm there.
That's great. And I highly recommend checking him out and following him on social media platforms. Good insights. And also, we'll put those things in the show notes. We'll also put links to your books in the show notes too, so people can go out there and purchase those or pick those up as well. Tony, I really appreciate you being with us. I know you're busy, but thanks for sharing some insights and talking with us a little bit today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
I highly recommend you checking out Tony Gaskins on social media. His Facebook and Twitter pages are really good. He churns out a lot of good content, provides some great insights. So check out the show notes for the addresses where you can find his social media links. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, we don't want you to miss any future episodes. So please hit that little subscribe button so that you don't miss out. Thanks for listening. And as always, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?